Welcome aboard, applicants. Let's begin. I thought we'd start with question 4 from the first year law students exam, Baby Bar, June 2014. As with all essays, we're going to start with the call of the question. So let's read it. Is wholesaler likely to prevail in its suit? Discuss. That's number 1. Number 2, what remedies, if any, may wholesaler reasonably seek? Discuss. Well, just reading the call of the question, we don't know exactly if this civil suit is a tort or a contract claim, okay? Now, looking up into the question, peeking up into that paragraph just before the call of the question, we see that wholesaler sued manufacturer for breach of contract. Breach of contract, obviously contract law. So let's put down our answer to our COTQ and begin our shopping list. So the first question we're asked to answer is wholesaler likely to prevail in its suit? Question mark. And I would also put this in as this. Since we know that wholesaler sued manufacturer, we would say wholesaler v. manufacturer. Okay, and then come down to number 2. And in number 2, what remedies may wholesaler reasonably seek? Oh, there we go. Question mark. Okay. Excellent. Now, bringing this down a little bit, we need to put in our shopping list so that we can begin after we do our first read, we can then on our second read issue spot. So we got contract formation, third-party rights, covenants, conditions, and excuses, discharge of the duty to perform. We have breach of contract and remedies, which we know now that remedies, at least the remedies portion, we're going to bring down and put under this call of the question. Okay, there we go. I would even say that we could bring down breach of contract, so I'm going to do that. So we'll put these two elements of our entries in our shopping list or checklist down here to begin to answer our call to question number 2. Okay, now with that in place, let's begin our first read of the question. On February 1st, wholesaler called manufacturer and ordered 100,000 widgets at $5 a piece for delivery on February 8th. Manufacturer, who knew that wholesaler was buying the widgets in order to resell them to retailers, said it's a deal. Wholesaler immediately entered into contracts to resell them for $15 a piece. On February 2nd, wholesaler sent manufacturer a signed formal memorandum confirming the agreement and setting forth all its terms. In listing the terms, wholesaler misstated the price as $6 a piece and added an additional term that any dispute was subject to binding arbitration. On February 3rd, manufacturer received and read the memorandum. Manufacturer was surprised by the arbitration term, which was rare in the industry. Manufacturer did not respond to the memorandum. On February 8th, manufacturer discovered that the market price of widgets had climbed to $25 a piece and refused to deliver them to wholesaler. Although substitute widgets were available for $25 a piece, wholesaler did not have the cash or credit to buy them. On February 28th, wholesaler sued manufacturer for breach of contract. Okay, now that we've read this, let's read it one more time now for issue spotting purposes. On February 1st, wholesaler called manufacturer and ordered 100,000 widgets at $5 a piece for delivery on February 8th. Well, starting our contract formation issue here, we need to make sure we establish the applicable law. And what would our applicable law be? Well, if the law deal, or if our contract deals with the sale or transaction in goods, it would be Uniform Commercial Code. Well, let's take a look. It's 100,000 widgets. So let me highlight that. Okay, 100,000 widgets, that would be Uniform Commercial Code. Okay. Okay, now we need to establish what a good is, and that we're dealing with the sale or transaction in goods, and therefore the Uniform Commercial Code should govern this contract. And remember, the additional aspect to the Uniform Commercial Code is a description or a discussion concerning merchants. Now, would our two parties here be considered merchants? Wholesaler, let's see, manufacturer who knew that wholesaler was buying the widgets in order to resell them to retailers. So it looks to me like manufacturer could or wholesaler at least could be considered a merchant. Is, well, let's see here. Is manufacturer a merchant? Well, wholesaler is the one who called manufacturer and ordered 100,000 widgets, which definitely would be someone who regularly deals in the goods of the kind involved in the contract. Example are widgets here. So I think both parties could be considered could satisfy the classification of merchant, which would be one who regularly deals in the goods of the kind involved in the contract, or who has special knowledge or skill related to said goods. So I would say both parties here. Okay, now down to contract formation. Now remember what a contract requires. We need offer, we need acceptance, and consideration. Remember to talk about defenses as well that are applicable. Okay, now under offer, let's take a look here. Was there an offer made? Well, on February 1st, wholesaler called manufacturer and ordered 100,000 widgets at $5 a piece for delivery on February 8th. So we know immediately here that the quantity is 1,000. So that's we'll take a look at that term or record that term here. Quantity, Q. $100,000 widgets. Okay. Time for performance. That would be February 8th. Interested parties. And that would be wholesaler and manufacturer. Price, well, we know what that is. That's $5 per widget. For a $500,000 contract price. Oh, let's see here. There we go. Okay. So it's $500,000 contract price. And then subject matter. And we know what that is. Widgets. Okay. Does it look like we have a sufficient offer here made by wholesaler to manufacturer? Sure looks like it. So so we have a sufficient offer. Has there been a satisfactory acceptance? Let's take a look. Now, manufacturer who knew that wholesaler was buying the widgets in order to resell them to retailers said it's a deal. So there it is. This one, we're looking at the acceptance. It's a deal. The communication. It's a deal. Is that an acceptance? Well, let's read one more time to just be 100% sure. Now, wholesaler on February 1st, wholesaler called manufacturer and ordered 100,000 widgets at $5 a piece for delivery on February 8th. Manufacturer, who knew that wholesaler was buying the widgets in order to resell them to retailers, said it's a deal. Looks to me like that we indeed have a full acceptance. So yeah, we would say that we could argue that it would be an acceptance. Oh, let's see. It's a deal. Okay. Right? Okay, yeah. There it is. Period. Now, here's an interesting aspect. Right after the acceptance, it's a deal by manufacturer. The wholesaler. Now, this is the interesting aspect. So we have to combine a couple facts here. Manufacturer, who knew that wholesaler was buying the widgets in order to resell them to retailers, said it's a deal. And then the sentence that comes after that, wholesaler immediately entered into contracts to resell them for $15 a piece. What would that be? Well, that's what we're looking at here in terms of irrevocable offer. What kind of irrevocable offer situation are we talking about here? Well, that would be detrimental reliance. And when did this actually take place, you might say? Well, that's when manufacturer who knew that wholesaler was buying the widgets in order to resell them to retailers. After he said it's a deal, now wholesaler immediately went out, I should say, or entered into contracts to resell them for $15 a piece. So at that point, we could argue that we have an irrevocable issue. I want to put this in parentheses because we're going to see that these same facts here could very well be consequential damages arguments, but we'll hold off on that until we get down to remedies. But hang on to that for future discussion. So you know what? I think I'll just take this out of the parentheses because it does have some factual basis. Okay, now down here under consideration, was there widgets in exchange for goods? Or sorry, widgets in exchange for money? Yeah. So we have widgets for money. There's sufficient consideration. Now, what about our defenses? The primary defense that we're going to look to was the statute, or is the statute of frauds. But what kind of statute of fraud situation are we dealing with here? Well, let's take a look. We're dealing with goods. And are we dealing with goods concerning a contract for the sale of those goods for all $500 or more? Sure looks like it. Our contract price is $500,000. So we definitely meet that requirement. So the statute of frauds, sale of goods, $500 or more. Now, let's ask ourselves here, was there a writing? Now, let's see. Well, ordered, okay, so we see ordered the 100,000 widgets. When manufacturer said it's a deal, now we got to ask ourselves here, was there any writing communicated between the parties? Let's continue reading. On February 2nd, wholesaler sent manufacturer a signed formal memorandum confirming the agreement, setting forth all its terms. Now, this is really interesting because we don't want to get too far ahead here either. Now, this is where the wholesaler sent manufacturer a signed formal memorandum confirming the agreement. So what would that be? Well, if the argument can be made that the initial agreement did not have a writing, what would be a good exception to statute of frauds, or this a argument that could be made that would satisfy the statute of frauds? Okay, I might have said that twice the same way, so please forgive me. So if one argument could be made that we indeed have a writing that would satisfy the sale of goods $500 or more, or even if that wasn't satisfied, do we have an exception that then would satisfy the statute of frauds? And what is that? called? It's the merchant's confirmatory memorandum. And do we have that here? Let's see. Well, wholesaler sent manufacturer February 2nd a signed signed. That's the aspect that we're looking at. Signed by the merchant. Formal memorandum confirming the agreement. Now the agreement would be that it contained all the necessary terms. Is it in writing? Obviously, a formal memorandum, and setting forth all the terms. So yeah, it looks to me like we in fact have a writing that would satisfy the statute of frauds. So looking into our statute of frauds argument, it looks like it's been satisfied. So it's not really it's a defense that we can raise. We can argue with facts and then quickly move through and beyond here, because where there's a couple more paragraphs we have to deal with. Now, in listing the terms, wholesaler misstated. Now this thing here, misstated the price term as $6 a piece and added an additional term. Okay, so this part here misstated the price term. The price is $6 a piece. So we're looking here at possibly a mistake through like the scrivener's error. Okay, so down here we want to make sure to bring that out right here. Now I would actually argue too that we could say, I'll just say mistake here, or error in transcription. Okay, that would be the error in transcription. I'll put the fact that points to that here for us, that misstated the price is $6 a piece. Okay, right here. Okay. Oh, there we go. There it is. Make sure I got that spelled right. Yep, got it. Okay. And added an additional term. Now this is where this interesting, that any dispute was subject to binding arbitration. We may have to come up here now and in our acceptance and talk about an additional aspect, which would be the addition. Well, see, this is the aspect here. That was this an additional term, or would this be considered a modification? So let's see here. Now, February 2nd, wholesaler sent manufacturer a signed formal memorandum confirming the agreement, setting forth all its terms, enlisting the terms. Wholesaler misstated the price as $6 a piece and added an additional term that any dispute was subject to binding arbitration. Don't want to forget something here too, that when we're dealing with error in transcription, we're also going to have the argument down here under remedies for reformation. Okay, so we want to make sure to put that in there. Now, what about the additional term though? Now, if it's a deal is considered the acceptance, would this be a modification, like I said before, that the added additional term, or that any dispute was subject to binding arbitration? Would that be UCC 2-207, or would that be considered a modification of the already formed contract? Well, what do you think, viewers? Well, see, okay, so I would say, like you guys probably have reasoned, that we need to read a little bit further too. On February 3rd, manufacturer received and read the memorandum. Manufacturer was surprised by the arbitration term, which was rare in the industry. Manufacturer did not respond to the memorandum. Okay, so what would that be, that it was rare in the industry? See, this is the aspect I think too, is the materiality. I really think this is leaning in the direction of 2-207. So I'm gonna put that in there. Yeah, exactly. Very good. Now we're looking here at additional terms between merchants become part of the contract unless one, the offer or the agreement expressly excludes inclusion, which it didn't here. Number two, the additional term would would be a material alteration of the agreement. Or number three, that the other party does not object to the additional term within a reasonable period of time. Now, we're looking at here, was the arbitration term something that was a material alteration? Okay. Well, absolutely, I would argue that down here, the arbitration term, and I would say that it would drop out at the point that we read, which was rare in the industry. Now, you might ask, if this was rare in the industry, how come manufacturer did not respond? Well, I think this is an additional argument that wholesaler could make as to why the arbitration term should come in. However, I think the fact that yeah. Well, you're going to have to. What is? Can you please further define KOR? I'll come down here and put down what we have for that it's a material knockout rule. See, that would be if it was if it was a conflicting term. But see, it said here that it added an additional term. So they're even pointing out to us it's not a conflicting term, it's an additional term. And a way to keep out additional terms is if they materially alter the agreement. Well, that's exactly what we have here. We have something that is not, as our facts say, not only were they surprised by the arbitration term, I'll throw that in there, surprised, which was rare in the industry. Manufacturer did, which was rare in the industry. Now, this is the other thing I want to point out. When they were surprised by the arbitration term, could that make the arbitration term as a possible defense unconscionable? It's an argument. So I might throw in here that after a mistake, we might have a small unconscionability argument that they were surprised. That might be reaching, so I would be very brief with that discussion. But now down up here, though, the material alteration, what would add support for it to be such is this here, that it was rare in the industry. Mark, put that down here. Oh. Okay, excellent. Okay, now that we've dealt with this, and now you're gonna have to help me with UOT. We don't have any third-party rights here. Oh, usage of trade? Absolutely. Very good. Gap filler. That's exactly right. See, I would definitely do that as well. Very good. Excellent job. So let's do gap filler. And we would throw in usage of trade. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, now let's finish reading. On February 8th, manufacturer discovered that the market price of widgets had climbed to $25 a piece and refused to deliver them to a wholesaler. Okay, this one here. Now, although substitute widgets were available for $25 a piece, wholesaler did not have the cash or credit to buy them. Now, on February 8th, though, manufacturer discovered that the market price of widgets had climbed to $25 a piece. Now, what is that in your mind? I should say, what should that trigger in your mind for an issue? Well, let's take a look here. That to me is a discharge of the duty to perform, because what we have here is we have impossibility, okay, financial and practicability, and frustration of purpose. Okay, so was it impossible, objectively impossible for wholesaler or manufacturer to send wholesaler the widgets? No. He simply refused to deliver them because of the increased price, the market price increasing to $25 a piece. So that would not work as an argument. Okay. How about financial and practicability? Well, he's going to argue that if he were to be required to perform the contract, he would be paying a substantial amount of money. Now, remember though, even though he might argue that this may cause him to become insolvent, the fact that he entered the contract with a widget at $5 means that he assumed to a degree that the market would go through fluctuation, which it exactly did. The market price of widgets had climbed to $25. Did he assume that risk when he entered into the contract? That's what wholesaler would argue, and I would agree with wholesaler that this indeed is something that manufacturer assumed when he entered into the contract with wholesaler. So assumed market flux. Okay, and so even though, and I'll put the $5 to $25 per widget. Okay, now down here under frustration of purpose, has the purpose, the essential essence of the contract been frustrated? It doesn't look like it has. So that wouldn't be a good argument. And therefore, we should throw in a conclusion here. Up here, is wholesaler likely to prevail in its lawsuit? Well, looks to me like that we can answer that in the yes here. But before we go into yes, we should actually talk about further issues that would be leading down into call to question 2. So, because we're actually we're going to bring up our breach of contract issues and our remedies down under call number 2. So, as of the first call, we can conclude with yes. Now, under breach of contract issues, do we have an anticipatory repudiation or repudiation? Well, it looks to me like right here, manufacturer discovered that the market price of widgets had climbed to $25 a piece and refused to deliver them to wholesaler. The refusal to deliver them to wholesaler is definitely an anticipatory repudiation, a unequivocal communication to the other party that that party will not perform before time of performance is due. And so we'll throw that in there. So there would be sufficient facts to establish anticipatory repudiation. Let's just throw those in right here. Refuse to deliver them to wholesaler. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, right here. And now down here. Now that we have established that there is a right to bring the contract, breach of contract claim, what would be our measurement of our breach of contract? how would we measure that breach of contract? Well, since we're dealing with the Uniform Commercial Code, it would most likely be the perfect tender rule. So let's put that down. Did did manufacturer perfectly tender the widgets to wholesaler? We know that they didn't. They refused to deliver them to wholesaler. So we know that they did not, they, meaning manufacturer, did not perfectly tender. Now we're dealing with remedies. We need to remedy that breach of contract. But remember, under remedies, we should always look to whether or not the avoidable consequence rule or the mitigation of damages argument is applicable here. Now, what would be a way that wholesaler can mitigate the damages and observe their duty to mitigate? Well, although substitute widgets were available for $25 a piece, wholesaler did not have enough cash or credit to buy them. This looks to me like they would have if they could have, but they were not able to. So we're looking at, was there a mitigation of damages observed? Yes. However, they had, I think it was insufficient funds right here. So we did not have cash or credit to buy them. So they would have sought the mitigation of damages in that they would have bought the substitute widgets. However, they could not because like we said, they didn't have cash or credit available. Now down here under expectation, what would be the expectation damages specifically here? Now in here, they kind of give us a clue. Substitute widgets. What does that sound a whole lot like to you under the remedies section for the Uniform Commercial Code? Absolutely. Cover. I would argue that they would say that the cover cost, the cost of what they would have to pay for reasonably equivalent widgets in the marketplace. Yes, that's exactly right. We're going to do Hadley versus Baxendale. That's right. So we looked at that there, and we don't want to forget consequential damages. Excellent. Thank you for pointing that out. Consequential damages. Hadley versus Baxendale. So let's ask ourselves here, was it foreseeable at the time of contract formation that one of the parties would suffer a direct loss, or the damage was a direct result of the breach? And was the direct result of the breach of contract, and was it foreseeable at the time of contract formation? So let's come up here and take a look. Well, it looks like now manufacturer who knew that wholesaler was buying the widgets in order to resell them to retailers. This is it. This is what we talked about before. This is where consequential damages would absolutely find support. And then for how much? Well, look here. Wholesaler immediately entered into contracts. That's right here, for $15 a piece. And so we're going to say that the amount of damage as a result of the breach of contract would be the difference between, well, I should say this, the $15 price per widget. Let's see here, right here. Here it is. Excuse me. Thank you for your patience. Was there a direct result of the breach of contract? Yes. That would be measured by $15 per widget, which we know that there's 100,000 widgets. And then was it foreseeable at the time of contract formation? Yes. So therefore, what would they argue under consequential damages? That it would be the whatever the amount that they pay it was, would be they entered into contracts up here for the 100,000 widgets to resell them at $15 a piece. So I think we can safely argue that it would be $15 times 100,000 widgets. With that, is that how viewers? Is that how you're seeing it as well? That'd be 100,000 times $15 a piece. Are you okay? That's what I thought. Would it be $15 a piece minus the $5 contract price, correct? Which would be the $10 per widget times 100,000 widgets. What do you think about that? Yep. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Great. Glad we're on the same page. Okay. So it would be the contract price $5 and let's see here. There we go. So the $15 for the cost of the per widget cost here. Make sure, okay. Minus the $5 contract price equals $10 per widget. Okay, perfect. I think we got it here. Okay, now under incidentals, these are the costs that were incurred by wholesaler here in observing their duty to mitigate their damages. Now, we also want to throw in a small discussion and reformation to that, which would change the contract price back to the intended $5 per widget. Reform contract price back to the intended $5 per widget. So I want to make sure to throw in a conclusion as well. Okay, now this one is a really interesting contract here. We had a lot of fun in this one. Okay, I hope you had a great time going through this. Very fascinating question. I feel like we went through the whole contract here, and we tackled our first call. Who is wholesaler likely to prevail in its suit? Or is wholesaler likely to prevail in his lawsuit? Wholesaler versus manufacturer. Are they? Yes. Or will they be likely to prevail? Yes. What remedies? We stated that there would be mitigation of damages observed, expectation damages through cover, consequential damages, the Hadley versus Baxendale, the revolving around that $15 per widget price, contract price, incidental damages, reforming the contract back to the intended $5 price, concluding that what remedies we would include those in our conclusion. Okay, I thank you so much for viewing this. Again, I hope you had a great time going through this question. I want to put a shout out to Chess Cruncher TV. Keep chess crunching, Chess Cruncher. I also want to put a shout out to my Amazon Kindle book, Battling the Big Bad Baby Bar, Essay Basics. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and God bless.